All right. Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Deputy Blanchard with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and welcome to today's Lunch with Law Enforcement. I'm going to go ahead and start today with just a hypothetical question. It's just one of those things to discuss in a world that could happen. Um, I want you to imagine right now that somebody could come into your house, could invade your privacy, could actually come into your home, steal items, into your car, steal your car, and then let's say you call us, you call law enforcement, we respond and we catch the person. Could you imagine a world where somebody could actually come and do all those crimes against you, and all we can do in law enforcement is write them a summons or a ticket saying that they have to show up to court at a later date and then release them? 15 minutes later, they can be going down the street and doing crimes as serious as burning a house down without anybody inside. Again, that same person, we can only write them a summons and send them on their way. This is a big concern that we have with a Senate bill that's coming through, which is Senate Bill 62. And today we have a panel here just coming to bring some information and a discussion with you, the public, to see a little bit about what's going on and what's going on with that Senate bill. Again, if you have questions regarding the Senate bill, please feel free to ask in the Facebook comments, and we will do our best to address those. Again, today is going to be more informative about this particular Senate bill and any other topics that anybody wants to bring up. But we're excited to be able to be here with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and start with letting everybody on the panel go ahead and introduce themselves. Sheriff, you want to go ahead and start?
You're welcome, everyone. Tony Spurlock, your Douglas County Sheriff.
I guess I'll go next. This is Kirk Wilson, Chief of Police for Lone Tree.
Hi, I'm Chris Peters. I'm a commander with the Parker Police Department.
Hi, I'm Tari. I work with the firm that represents the Colorado Chiefs of Police down at the Capitol.
All right, and I'm Sergeant Jeff Miller. I'll just be here. I'll be monitoring your questions. Any questions you have, you can put on our Facebook in the comments, and we'll ask those to the panelists.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome to the panel. Thank you all for being here to be able to discuss this very important topic. Sheriff, do you want to go ahead and start off just telling us a little bit more about Senate Bill 62?
I will. So thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. Senate Bill 62 is what is known as the depopulation bill. The jail depopulation bill is some of the language that it's used or called by. And this is, the sponsors are Senator Lee and Senator Benavides. And essentially what this bill does in a nutshell is it reduces the ability for consequences for felonies 4, 5, 6s, and all of the misdemeanors 1, 2, and 3 to include municipality offenses that would fit inside those categories under state code. And what that really encompasses, that is a lot of crimes. Now we want to talk right up front. This does not include crimes against persons, any of the what they call victim rights amendment crimes. So any domestic violence or assault, it doesn't apply to any of those, but it applies to every other crime: shoplifting, auto theft, burglary. There's an arson in there. It encompasses a large array of criminal behavior. And essentially what this bill does is it eliminates the consequences of being arrested and being in jail. It also allows the defendant to miss up to court 3 times, court appearances 3 times if they don't show up without a warrant being arrested or a warrant being issued for their arrest. And I'm going to talk a little bit about warrants and how that affects all of the sheriffs in the state of Colorado who are responsible for the court services of all of the warrants that come out of any county or district court. There's a variety of other things in this bill that again, all minimize the consequences of individuals who are committing crimes. Let me just tell you very quickly how I feel about this. I can also speak on behalf of the county sheriffs of Colorado. We have voted to take an opinion against a position of this bill. And there are a number of sheriffs doing similar things that I'm doing right now, and that is sharing their views to their constituents about this bill is in regards to public safety. And I always start out any kind of conversation when I talk about how safety and public safety in the community and the community's wealth is and health is that if you live in a safe community, you have a thriving community, your businesses thrive, your schools thrive, people want to come and live there, people want to be a part of that community. And when you have all of that safety and security and all those things working together, you have a thriving community. And it is so important that every jurisdiction obviously focuses on that. And I think all law enforcement officers do, as well as city councils, mayors, and county commissioners. And so it is so important when we start talking about bills like this. And in this case, particularly, and we talked just a little bit, Jason talked a little bit about auto theft or burglary or other crimes. And in Douglas County, we have a lot of auto thefts. We have a lot of auto thefts because we are so close we are right in the middle between two metropolitan areas, Colorado Springs and Denver. And individuals come here and take advantage of that and steal a lot of cars. And we have a lot of auto thefts that occur here. We do apprehend and catch those individuals, but this is what would happen. If this bill passes, those individuals don't go to jail. Those individuals essentially get left alone right there on the street, and we impound the car that they just freshly stole, and we have to drive away and leave them there, issue them a summons for the particular crime that they're accused of, and then they can choose to go to court if they want to. They can miss it 3 times before any warrant will be issued for their arrest. And they, quite frankly, go right back to stealing more cars and violating other people's property without any consequences. And I say it time and time again, without consequences, we can't have any kind of common city. We can't, or civilization. We have to have consequences for our actions, particularly those who violate other people's, not only their rights, but their property. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these, and I will, I'll let Chris introduce himself, and we'll talk a little bit more about those.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I'm Chris Peters. I'm a commander with the Parker Police Department. Chief Jim Serapis, he wanted to be here. He had a prior engagement, so I'm filling in for him. But he just wanted me to pass along to make sure that that everyone knew that he has signed a letter of opposition along with a lot of the other chiefs and sheriffs in the 18th Judicial against this particular legislation. And just April 5th, last Monday, the Town of Parker Town Council also voted a resolution opposing this bill. And the reasons are just like the sheriff had described. If someone could come to your house, throw a brick through your car window, stand there in the driveway, and a police officer comes by, and we do arrest a lot of people who break into cars and steal cars. Currently, we are doing that to keep people safe. When you call the police, you expect something to be resolved. You expect the police to do something about it. And we currently are doing something. So if this bill passes, then we show up, we find the bad guy that just broke into your car, we write them a ticket, we drive off, and they're still standing there in your driveway. And there you are on your porch looking at them, and we're gone. So essentially, that's why the chief of police in Parker has signed this opposition, and the Town of Parker Town Council has also signed it.
I wanted to jump on just real quickly, if I can. There was a couple comments. I want to make everyone understand that's listening. Yes, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but that doesn't mean that if you commit a crime that you can't go, if there's probable cause, that you couldn't go to jail. So it doesn't mean that everyone just stays out until they're proven guilty and they can just continue to commit crimes. That's not what we're saying. I always say, always everyone is innocent until proven guilty by a court of law or by their peers. But that does not preclude the people of the state of Colorado to say that if you commit these kinds of crimes, you should have some kind of consequences to, one, ensure that you will appear in court, and two, a consequence that would significantly impact your decision to committing these kinds of crimes. There was another comment about will this be voted on? This decision will be made by the House and the Senate, those who we elect to promulgate, make laws, and that is where it will stand. And it would, once it passes both the House and the Senate, it will go to the governor's desk to be signed. So the people of state of Colorado, the only voice you have at this point, and we'll say this a couple times, is to reaching out to your representatives. I encourage everyone to call the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House and voice your opinion on this bill, and ask them to kill the bill, and if they want to have more conversation, they should bring people to the table that actually are participating in the criminal justice system. So to answer that one question, it won't be voted on by the people of the state of Colorado. It will be voted on by those that are elected as senators and representatives.
And on that note, I'll go ahead and give our first kind of informational phone number. If you do want to get a hold of the Senate Majority Office, it's going to be 303-866-2195. Again, 303-866-2195. We'll put that out a few times if you want to write that down a little bit later. But just to make this clear, this is not a complete lack of accountability. Just for that end, they do still have to see a judge at some point. Well, after a whole bunch of PR bonds could be issued for not showing up. But the real point that we need to make is that there's a time where we need to get these criminals off of the street, not necessarily go out and, just write a ticket and send them on their merry way so that they can continue the crime.
Yeah, Jason. And I think, the important part to think about this is there's so many different moving parts on this. But let's talk about the warrants. If you commit a crime, someone sees you throw a brick through the window, and they call the police, and we catch you standing there picking up another brick. In this passage of this law enforcement officers would only be able to issue you a summons. And if you failed to appear for court on 3 different occasions, then you would then ultimately at some point would be able to be arrested for a failure to appear. What's important to know now is that we already have hundreds, just in my agency alone, hundreds of failure to appear warrants that are on the books right now for persons who failed to appear under current circumstances. If this bill would be passed, that would go to thousands, in my opinion, because there would be, again, no consequence for your actions. And I believe you need to have consequences for your actions. And those things are incredibly impacted to the court. We have to remember that the court is going to continue to just get backlogged and backlogged and backlogged. And if people want to have their day in court, if they want to have due process, you have to have a system that can function. And in my opinion, this bill would essentially stop that function from being level reliable, because it would just clog the system beyond the capacity of the court system to manage it, because no one would be in the system to follow the normal rules. And so it's important to understand how we got to this point. This starts out as a depopulation bill because the county jails and the prisons are at some point, people are indicating that they're overflowing with individuals incarcerated. Now, prisons, those are people who have been convicted of a crime and they've been sentenced to serve a sentence. Most people in county jails are awaiting trial. The important thing about those that are waiting trial in jails is that, yes, I agree. And I'll tell you that most of the sheriffs from the County Sheriffs of Colorado. They don't believe that most of the misdemeanor offenses should be in the county jail. More serious offenses should be in the county jail. And there could be some negotiations with this bill. And this is some of the stuff that we've talked about with the sponsors of eliminating, taking the felonies off the table and saying, okay, just misdemeanor crimes, lower level stuff, not to be put into jail. They would have a summons and they would have to appear. They wouldn't even have to post a bond on any of those. And so those are the kinds of things that we have suggested. I know there were people working behind the scenes trying to get the bill sponsors to make some adjustments and amendments to this bill. But again, I just urge you to think about all of the scenarios, and we could play scenarios all day, so I'll answer questions if you have any, but think of all the scenarios. If someone comes into your shop and steals $500 worth of the property and walks out, and you call us, essentially all we can do is write the individual a ticket and hope that that individual shows up to court. There's no consequence. And we are not saying that everyone is guilty. I'm saying that you have probable cause to believe that an individual committed that crime because we have witnesses that saw you do it. Law enforcement catches you, then you should have to go immediately to the jail and either post a bond or appear in front of the court to answer for your first appearance on the validity of the crime. That is a consequence. That is a situation that our Constitution has set in place on how we would do justice. It would also set in place for our community to be able to function and to work with inside itself, not just have a free-for-all. This would be a free-for-all, in my opinion. And I don't know how anyone in their right mind could argue it any other way. It would just allow people to come and do whatever they want to do with zero consequences. And it's incredibly dangerous to our community, incredibly dangerous for our state to have this bill passed in the way that it is.
And one of the questions coming in is just about our discretion. Right now, we do have some discretion on when we can and can't issue a summons. But generally speaking, the way I'm understanding it as it's reading is that it removes that discretion. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Jason, there I was reading a question that someone had. I apologize. I'm not supposed to do three things at one time.
No, that's okay. Just referring to discretion. Right now, we have some discretion on when it's appropriate for us to write a summons and when we make an arrest and bring him into jail. But this is basically removing that discretion for class 4, 5, 6 felonies and then all misdemeanors. Is that correct?
That is correct. It would be mandatory that law enforcement would not be able to issue a summons for them. There is some circumstances in the bill, there's some language that says if we can prove that the individual is a danger to the public or a significant flight risk from appearing into court, we'd have to articulate that. Then we could arrest the individual, but we have to articulate that in the booking arrest documents. And again, law enforcement does a great job on doing that kind of discretion on many of those misdemeanor crimes. It's the felony crimes, the more serious type crimes. And part of the reason why some of the conversation between the bill sponsors is that there's individuals that are in jails across the state of Colorado who may not be able to have the ability to pay the bond, to focus on the bond, or they might not be able to get out because of some other circumstance. And if they get arrested, they're going to lose their job. And I agree with all of those things. Some of those things do happen. But the other issue with that is that right now we have a system in place where you can petition the court. An individual can petition the court for a PR bond. They have options to have public defenders to defend them and to argue for their release on any of those bonds. And those situations, most of those individuals who cannot get out of jail are the individuals that have more serious crimes, and that bond may be much higher. And so those circumstances, yes, are difficult. I know that there has been discussion and conversation about jails. There's larger numbers of people in jail that are people of color than any others. And I think that that happens to be regional issue. It's not the issue in Douglas County. And I would venture to say that it's not the issue in a number of other counties. It might be in Denver County. It might be in other larger jurisdictions where we have a more equal balance of individuals of color. Yes, that might be the possibility, but those percentages equal out even across the state of Colorado. And so just to change that kind of conversation is something that we need to be talking about other issues, not about issues that are committing persons of committing crimes. All of these individuals would be persons who had met the threshold of a probable cause that they committed a crime. And at that threshold, the decision should be made and should be allowed for law enforcement to make the discretionary decision of that should this individual be placed into custody or bonded or not, or issued a summons, not legislative from the Capitol who's trying to fix something in a small area of the state and not look at the greater part of the state of Colorado. And I always argue that as well, is that I urge our legislators to legislate for the entire state of Colorado. Yes, they will represent their constituents, but they need to look at the effect of the entire state of Colorado, not just how it would affect the Denver metro area or an area like in Colorado Springs.
So Jason, I will jump in. Thanks for the invite to do so. A couple things I just want to point out. One, judges already issue a lot of personal recognizance bonds in our current system. And they do that based on the criminal history of the individual that they're dealing with. And they do that based on the significance of the crime they committed and whether people were injured and how many victims there are. So there's a lot of factors that go into them making that decision already. And this bill, the second half of this bill basically negates the judge's ability and the district attorney's office to evaluate people's criminal history and how many times have they failed to appear. And it forces them to give personal recognizance bonds to all individuals that are coming into the jail. I also want to point out, while they did take out the Victim Rights Act crimes, which are all your violent crimes against people, that is not exempted from the automatic personal recognizance bond part of this bill. So essentially, if someone was to assault you, let's say a second degree assault, which is a class 4 felony, which typically involves serious bodily injury, unless the DA can prove that this person continues to be a threat to society, they will be released the very next day. So essentially, it's the same thing. They might spend one day in jail and they're going to be right back on the street, regardless of the fact that they just committed a very violent crime. And I would also just add that there's been some articles in the Denver Post recently about how significant property crimes have risen in the past year. That's motor vehicle theft. I believe it's up 50% in the state. Your vehicle trespasses, people breaking into your cars, identity theft. There's probably isn't a person on the planet that hasn't been affected by identity theft. Those are all class 4 and class 5 felonies. And this bill essentially, once again, we're going to give them a ticket, let them go home. And my experience with folks that commit those types of crimes, that's what they do all the time. I mean, we have people with rap sheets with 30, 40 arrests. And this bill takes into no account the level or how prolific the person is in committing crimes. It's going to essentially create a revolving door at the jail and to try to slow down some of the criminal activity. This bill is going to be extremely dangerous for communities and very unvictim friendly. It certainly doesn't take into account what the victims are experiencing. And if you're allowing someone not to show up to court 3 times, I mean, the wheels of justice are already slow, and they are going to come to a screeching halt if people know that they don't have to even show up for court and they get 3 times that they can miss that, and they still, until it's finally the 3rd time, they're finally going to have a bond, in which might slow them down. And I think it's foolish, and I'll just be blunt about it, very foolish and ridiculous to put a bill out like this without taking into account what reality is when it comes to courts, and reality is with what when you're a prolific criminal, and you're committing these crimes literally daily or weekly, this is just going to exacerbate our property crime problems throughout the county, throughout the state.
Well, one of the points to probably make it clear is there has been this year, there's been an increase in property crimes, and we are catching people like crazy. Sheriff, you want to address that a little bit?
Sure. So our auto theft has gone up above the 50% marker and have increase in auto theft. But equally, we have been apprehending them. We have a unit that focuses just on auto theft, and many of the metro areas have that ability as well, working with Colorado State Patrol and other jurisdictions. So we're apprehending these individuals. In this case, if this bill is passed, we leave them alongside the road. We take the car they stole and we impound it. It goes back to an impound lot or wherever it's going to go, if it's drivable, and the individual walks away. One of the other impacts to the greater community is this little thing called insurance. So when the car is stolen and it's damaged, the insurance company is now going to have to fund the pay for that. And they do that right now. Your car gets stolen, your insurance company, if you have that insurance on your car, for them to either fix the damage or to purchase you a new car or equal amount because of it was stolen. The system is in place to work through restitution. So you can work through restitution for the individuals who are charged and convicted of the crime. And this bill, as the chief said, this will essentially just stop the system. The individual doesn't have to appear in court or 3 times before that individual is even arrested. And Lord knows how many other crimes they'll be committed. And I think it's important to focus on the fact that there is a very small number of people in our communities that are committing all of the crimes. And all of the people that are being victimized are the ones that are going to be affected by this bill. Those small group of individuals who are committing the crimes, who have the officers have been able to prove that there's probable cause that they committed the crime, and currently they are put into jail and they are allowed to post a bond. Those small group of people are somehow getting all of the interest, where none of the victims are being thought of, and the impact on not only the victim, but businesses, the community at large, and then just the basic feel of a community that criminals can just come and do as they please in a community, because law enforcement has no ability to stop them. There is no consequences. And I know that there's people that are texting and sending messages that people are to say, well, you're innocent until proven guilty. That's right, you are. But there's a little thing called probable cause. And if we have probable cause that you committed a crime because a witness saw you doing it, you should be addressed by the police, and you shouldn't just be able to run free. People who harm other individuals shouldn't be allowed to continue to do that. That's not what our society, our bedrock, our foundation of our society and our country is about. It's law and order, and there are laws put in place to protect the people. This law does not do any of that. This law harms the greater amount. And you've heard the analogy. 10% of the people create 90% of the problems. All right. So there's 90% of the people are now going to be harmed by this bill, because somehow the bill sponsors feel that this is going to protect the individuals who are committing the crimes. And I'm all for equal protection under the law. I'm all for due process, making sure that they have an opportunity to be heard by a court, be allowed to be bonded just like anyone else can. but they shouldn't just be able to run free because, well, I stole 2 cars and I get to go free on that thing. That is not what our society is built on. This is a dangerous bill, and I encourage you that you call the Senate, 303-866-2195. You call that switchboard, demand to speak to the president of the Senate, demand to speak to the Speaker of the House. Tell them that it will impact your ability to do business. It'll impact your ability to feel free to move around the community. I think all of those things are legitimate conversations. And I'm just telling you, as your sheriff, this bill is dangerous because it allows criminals to continue to commit crimes against innocent people without any consequence. And that is dangerous. It's dangerous for any community, and it's dangerous for the state of Colorado.
And Commander Peters or Chief Wilson or Sheriff, there's been a couple comments on here about citizens taking some of the punishment into their own hands. Is that something that somebody wants to address?
Well, obviously that type of street justice, or whatever you want to call it, that's just going to be completely dangerous. It's going to put more innocent people at risk of harm. If it's victims that are frustrated because the people sworn to protect and serve are unable to do so, so they need to take a vigilante type action, it's going to put them in danger. They don't have training, equipment, safety measures, or anything to take that kind of action. And that's just completely dangerous. So obviously no one on this panel is going to suggest that people take any of that into their own hands. What we're saying is, with the passing of this bill, there's a lot of hands that are tied, and the solution is not to take it into your own hands. It's a terrible situation if this bill passes, with a lot of law enforcement, the people who are supposed to be able to do something about it not being able to. But no one here is going to support any kind of take it into your own hands as a victim type of solution.
Echo that too, but I guess another thing I'd point out is that, that's another, I think, concern we have about the bill, right? So you have people getting, feel like there's no justice being done. There's no action that seems appropriate for the situation. So if someone broke in my house, stole my car, got into a pursuit with officers, wrapped my car around a tree and destroyed it, they're gonna get a ticket and they're gonna go home. I'm out of a car. My house has been burglarized. I've been violated. And it could lead to that type of behavior where we start to have people taking things in their own hands because they realize that law enforcement's not going to really be able to take much action against the person that was caught. And I think I speak for a lot of people when that doesn't seem very equitable. When someone has done those things, caught in the act, and yet nothing, they just go on about their business like they had nothing ever happened. And that leaves the victims there to pick up the pieces and figure out how they're going to get their car replaced and deal with their insurance companies and deal with the aftermath of, having your house broken into and being victimized. So, we don't want it to lead to vigilantism, but, it's another fear about the system. If the system doesn't work, then what do people have left to do?
I would also just add that I don't think a lot of people out there realize how I like the word you used, Chief, is just how violating a lot of these crimes are to the victim. I mean, this really affects the people, and when they see somebody just given a ticket and sent about their merry way, I can't imagine as a victim having to be able to say, like, that person who was just there endangering me and my family and my property, but more over me and my family, the people inside, because they did come into my home, they get to just keep going. I wish people out there could just envision that somebody coming into your home, digging through your drawers, putting you and your family at risk because you don't know what action they're willing to take to get away with that property. They get caught, and then we just write a ticket and say, have a good day. That's a scary, scary prospect. Tara, you've been pretty quiet down here. Do you want to add anything for us here?
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. And yeah, I worked with the lobbyist firm down at the Capitol. We've been working really hard on this bill to get it defeated. And we had a great showing at the Senate Judiciary hearing on March 4th. We really got the attention of the bill sponsors, but we also really got the attention of the ACLU, who are also part of the group that have drafted this bill. And so one of the things that we're doing is we've got a really active grassroots campaign, and I would love to give my email address out to people to, if you feel that you're concerned about the things that these sheriffs and chiefs have shared with you, then I would urge you to reach out to us. We've got messaging, we've got, the ACLU is a hard group to, I don't want to say the word combat, but to manage, because they've got a lot of pull. And so we really need the community to step up and let their legislators know that this isn't okay. And so we've got ways to do that. I'm happy to, I work with a lot of these different grassroots kind of community people, and from Boulder to Colorado Springs. And really, if we could get some folks from Douglas County, that would be huge. We were really instrumental in getting Senate Bill 182 killed by a lot of the groups in Douglas County. And so we are kind of riding that wave right now on the momentum down at the Capitol, but we really need community groups to come out and say, this is not okay. So I don't know, can I give my email address out? Wait, you're on mute.
You're brave, but go ahead.
Okay, it's Tari, Tari, at capitalsolutionsinc.com. So it's CAPITOL solutionsinc.com. And feel free, I don't know how you guys are doing this on the Facebook thing, but feel free to put that in the chat. Thank you for this opportunity, by the way. You guys are wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tony.
So and I'm going out on a limb here a little bit, Sheriff, but I'm just going to share a personal story real quick. There was a time in my youth where I had a minor run-in with the law, and I ended up having to go to jail for a night. And while I know this is going out on a limb, but that is honestly what changed my life to actually get on the straight and narrow. I was going down a wrong path. I was never convicted of anything or anything like that, but I did have to go to jail for a night, and that is what was a simple night in jail was enough for me to say, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to change my life and go to get on the straight and narrow, and I have ever since, and obviously landed here. And I do blame that night, and I'm grateful for that night because I was able to actually have a consequence in that moment, even though it all turned out fine in the end. I made a mistake, and I was able to come out and actually pay the consequence and learn from it, which is really the goal of the entire corrections system.
Yeah, that's. I actually heard this story the other day, and everybody wanted to thumb back through the background investigation. So, no, and what Jason is talking about is quite frankly my premise to this whole bill is that it removes consequences from anyone from doing anything wrong, and you just cannot do that. It is not. We as a people, we would not survive that if there were not consequences to keep us inside the guardrails. And it's a human behavior that is bred into us, that we accept. And those who commit crimes and don't care about the victims, those are that small number of people. And I want to say this, it's a small number of people that are doing this. And this bill is essentially going to say, it's okay, continue to do that. And again, that eliminates the consequence for those individuals for committing those crimes against the people of the state of Colorado. And it is something that we can do something about. Capital Solutions is doing a great job and making sure that the community understands who to call and to have a voice. This is the time when the people need to step up. One of the things that's in this bill, which just drives me crazy, is that if we had a bunch of protesters down at the commissioner's hearing over something and they started throwing rocks into the building, there's nothing I could do about that. I would not be able to do anything about that or influence that. And that kind of behavior, in my opinion, is spun from people who do not have consequences for their actions. And this is dangerous for the state on so many different levels. And essentially is that if you want to riot and break property damage and commit crimes, that somehow that you get to just continue to do that without any kind of consequence. And we are not that kind of country. We're not that kind of people to have this bill. I have had the opportunity on occasion to speak to both of the bill sponsors on other areas of their duties as senators. And I constantly urge them to say, listen, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to help a couple people who might have been put into jail and couldn't bond out or couldn't get out of jail because of one thing, and then they lost a job, and it is a cascading issue. Yes, I understand that, and those are tragic issues, and we can find ways to work within that. We do that in our jail. I know that the metro jails do this all the time. We have a reintegration program, and we do our very best to try to get those people who have financial burdens or maybe have some other kind of burden in their life. Maybe it's a substance abuse. We have ways that we work with them to get them out of the jail and really try to help them find a job or keep their job so they remain an active member of our community. And there are programs in place like that. There are programs that we're doing right now. But I'm here to say this right now, since Jason went out on a limb, I'll go out on a limb as well. There are some people that need to be in jail. There are some people that commit crimes that need to be in jail and need to be incarcerated. And the system was designed to protect the rest of the people from them. And this bill eliminates it. And this is why I get passionate about it. I've spent 41 years protecting the people of Douglas County and trying to keep them safe from the criminal elements and trying to create an environment to where people can come here and start a business and make a living and retire and raise their children and go to great schools and have a good life. This bill will destroy that. And if you have an opinion about it differently, I beg for you to share with me, because I don't know how you could logically say that. I don't know how you could logically say it whatsoever. This bill is dangerous for the people of the state of Colorado. And again, I urge you to call 303-866-2195, and that's the Senate switchboard. Ask to speak to the president, ask to speak to the Speaker of the House, leave a message, make sure, call Capital Solutions, call Tara there, load up her email and say you want to be a voice, because they will listen to the people, and we've known that. And I respect them if they do. But we have to let the people understand that this is not just listed as a depopulation bill because there's so many people in jail that don't need to be there and all these other kinds of things. That is so misleading. That is not what this bill is about. And I urge you to read it, look at it, and then have a conversation with the legislators to say, please kill this bill.
One thing I wanted to just follow up with Sheriff Spurlock's comments there. During the Senate Judiciary hearing, we had a lot of Boulder business owners that own businesses on Pearl Street, and they came in and talked about how the folks, the criminals, they already know that there's no consequences, and that the Boulder Police Department is very handcuffed, no pun intended, to actually do anything about it because of everything, the arrest standards up there. And they're now coming in and shoplifting right in front of them, and knowing that they can't, they can get away with it because of all the COVID stuff and that process. This is just codifying what was done with COVID and the jail depopulation stuff. And so it's really dangerous. So I appreciate your comments, but I just thought I'd share with you. Those are some real things that are happening where the criminals already know, the word's already out that, oh, I can do whatever I want and I'm not going to get in trouble for it. And there's no consequences. So thank you.
I was going to add something, but I forgot.
Go ahead,
Ken.
All right. Any last words for everybody before we wrap up here?
I would just say if you're a business owner in Douglas County or you are watching this anywhere, you're a business owner, please participate, be a part of it, because your business could be affected by this. Your ability to raise your family, create a retirement, and also support your employees are going to be affected. When we don't work together, so things like this happen. So I encourage business owners to stand up and have a voice. And also anyone that's listening, please contact the Senate and the House. Get a hold of Tari from Capital Solutions, see what you can do to help. And I appreciate the other folks that came on to have their comments. And again, thank you always for the support that you give law enforcement in Douglas County.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all so much on the panel for coming and joining us. Thank you for all of you citizens coming and joining us for a little bit of lunch break here. Hopefully this was informational and you learned a little something. And remember to reach out to your Senate House there, the 303-866-2195, and ask for the President of the House and state your opinion. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.